What about your childhood did you think was normal until you grew up and realized it wasn't? Okay, so this is probably going to sound wild to most people, but I genuinely thought every family had elaborate monthly emergency drills. Like, not just your basic fire drill where you practice exiting the house. I'm talking full-on survival scenarios that my dad would meticulously plan and then spring on us with zero warning. I remember being like 7 years old when Dad first implemented Scenario Sunday. The last Sunday of every month, usually around dinner time when we were all together, he'd suddenly yell, "Scenario!" and we'd all have to drop everything and respond to whatever crisis he'd invented. Sometimes it was natural disasters, earthquakes, floods, tornadoes. Other times it was more creative, alien invasions, government collapse. Once it was, the neighbors have all turned into zombies and we have 15 minutes to secure the house. My mom, my older brother Steven, and I would have to immediately shift into action mode. Dad had these laminated roll cards he'd distribute with our specific responsibilities. Mine usually involved gathering emergency supplies from around the house, the go bags that were stashed in each bedroom, the water purification tablets from the bathroom cabinet, the emergency radio from the garage. Steven was in charge of securing entry points, which meant checking all windows and doors. Mom would gather important documents and medications. We had a point system. Dad kept a clipboard and timed us, deducting points for forgotten items or fatal mistakes that would have compromised our survival. If we scored above 85 points collectively, we'd get ice cream afterward. Below 70 points meant we had to run the scenario again the following weekend. I thought this was just what families did. I'd casually mention it to friends like, "Oh, sorry, I can't come over next Sunday. It's scenario day." And they'd just nod like they understood. It wasn't until I was at my friend Vicky's house in 8th grade, and a thunderstorm knocked out the power that I realized something was off. Her family just lit some candles and played board games. They didn't immediately implement their power outage protocol or retrieve their pre-designated emergency supplies. I was genuinely confused. The wildest part is that my dad wasn't some wilderness survivalist or military veteran. He was an accountant who wore sweater vests and collected vintage stamps. But he approached these drills with the intensity of someone preparing for the actual apocalypse. He had this massive 3-ring binder labeled Family Contingency Plans, with color-coded tabs for different categories of emergencies. There were actual flow charts. When I was 16, I finally asked my mom why we did these drills when none of my friends' families did. She got this really sad look and explained that Dad had experienced some difficult things before I was born, and that the scenarios made him feel more in control. I didn't fully understand then. It wasn't until I was in my 2nd year of therapy at 25 that I connected the dots. My therapist was asking about family patterns around anxiety, and I casually mentioned Scenario Sunday. She was concerned. Turns out my dad had been dealing with severe untreated anxiety and possibly PTSD from a traumatic event in his youth. The elaborate drills were his way of managing overwhelming fear about keeping his family safe. Dad got proper help eventually, after Mom finally convinced him to see someone when I was in college. He still has his binder, but the scenarios stopped years ago. We joke about it at family gatherings now. Steven will occasionally yell "Scenario" just to make Dad roll his eyes. But behind the jokes, I think we all recognize it came from a place of love, however misguided. He just wanted to make sure we'd be okay no matter what happened.